Taste Life Nutrition Radio, streaming live on KUHSdenver.com, where we have some of the most amazing people who are our guests, who are doing amazing things in this world, and who have a lot to give and a lot to share. And as always, I'm working on all my technical stuff. Jeez, just nonstop. Anybody who watches just knows, like, okay, she's gonna mess something up. Anyway, so we're grateful that you're here. As always, what are we about? We're about truth and health, truth and happiness. What does that mean? We want to bring to you the truth about health to the best of our ability, right? Is it based in science? Sure. Is there data? Sure. But there are other things that bring us health and bring us happiness, and we're looking at, financial and relational and spiritual, mental and physical and emotional, and all of these things wrapped into one that bring us true health and true happiness. And I want to talk to the people who are out there who are doing the same, who are working their tails off, no matter what the situation is, to bring goodness and love and light to the world and to the people who surround them. And I'm just amazingly blessed to be surrounded by people who are like that. And I love it and I appreciate it. And so we have with us, we've got Tad Chance and Macy O'Grady. And we'll dig in a little bit about why they're here and what they're about. I'm going to let them share their story. But first, we always start with gratitude, because gratitude can change the world. It's very important. So, who wants to go first? What are you grateful for?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I am super grateful for the fact that Tad and I are getting married next week.
So fun.
We're super excited about it.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. All right. And so you're getting married where?
We're getting married here in Denver.
Okay.
At a place called Breckenridge Brewery. Super relaxed environment.
Amazing.
Yeah. We wanted to have something that was just us, very kind of a chill environment, and we love going to breweries and hanging out there. We like the people. Everybody's super nice, and we get to know people. And anyway, so that's where we're getting married.
Cool.
And October 1st. So we're super excited.
And you're going where for your honeymoon?
We're going to Belize. We leave on Monday morning, early Monday morning. We're escaping to Belize.
Yeah.
I think we're turning our phones off. We're just going to relax, disconnect from the world, and connect with each other. And we're really excited about it.
Oh, it's so good, so good. We went to Belize last year, and the water is beautiful and fantastic.
Can't wait.
Good. Yay!
Can't wait.
All right, Tad, what are you grateful for?
Well, I guess the right answer would be I'm getting married in a week.
That's a good answer.
However, in addition to that being the right answer, really it's for the friendships.
Yeah.
And just as you mentioned, right, having just amazing people around you. We'll get into my story, but I'll forever be grateful for everything that friends and family brought.
Yeah. Well, so that sort of gets us into the story and why Tad and Macy are here. So I met Macy through a networking group, and so you've been on the show before because you do real estate, but you specialize in women specifically, right?
Yep, I focus on working with women with children going through divorce, helping them sell their marital home or the home that they happen to be in, and finding the home to start their next chapter. It's part of my personal story, and gives me an opportunity to add value through my real estate expertise, and my story through my divorce. And there's all these different cameras.
I know. It's mostly there.
So that's what I do that's my day job, I guess, is in the Denver area as a realtor.
Very cool. Yeah. So Tad, real quick, talk about what you do.
I work for IBM. I'm a sales executive, so I manage a sales team to help us collaborate with our partners and sell to our customers.
Cool. Good stuff. So in meeting Macy through this networking group, and I think it was even after we had this show, you came to me and told me your story, and y'all's story as a Texas girl, y'all's story. And the story is, Tad, you were diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and so I think I'm going to let y'all take it.
Yeah.
It just works. It just works. Take it from here, and let's talk about your story, and then what brought you to this point, essentially today.
Wait
Yeah.
a minute.
Huh?
What are you grateful for?
Oh man, that's the second time I've done that. Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. I don't remember who it was. The last person said, "What about you, Nikki?"
Yeah.
I'm super grateful, and you know what I'm grateful for today is the fact that I have the ability to work the hours that I want to work, and as any entrepreneur, I work a lot of hours, but I can do it from anywhere, which means I can go and be with my dad when he has to have heart surgery and help to take care of him and help him to recover. And then, clean out the junk food in his kitchen and cook for him so he has good, healthy, nutrient-dense food to help him continue his recovery. So I think that's it. I wasn't able to work a lot when I was there, but I could talk with clients and could do those things that needed to be done, and that's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for I will cuss technology sometimes, but when it comes to the way that we can now build businesses and communicate, it really is. I'm grateful for the ability to do that and to be able to work from anywhere. It's good.
That is awesome.
It's a good thing to be grateful for.
All right, so now let's talk about multiple myeloma.
Yeah, so again, thank you, Nikki, for allowing us to be here. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to share our story. Different people have different views on kind of these life and these diseases that come up, and some people don't share, and some people, want to try to do the journey on their own. I've chosen a different path. And so I'm always excited and happy to share kind of what my experiences that I've gone through and hopefully share some advice that helps others. So thank you. But multiple myeloma is a bone marrow. It's a cancer found in your bone marrow. And essentially what it does is it attacks kind of the good proteins and it mass produces, so it doesn't ever go away. It's a live with, not a curable cancer at the moment.
So real quick, if you don't mind, you say it doesn't ever go away. Is that's just because we, the collective, we haven't found a cure, or they just don't know? They just don't, is that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So there isn't a cure, although it's probably one of the areas that is advancing the most in the medical field in terms of finding other solutions and things that they hope will then make it where you're then in full remission and you're considered cured. So what you can do though is go into a remission, and then the job is to keep the cancer away as long as you can. Right, until it comes back, until you relapse. And so, when I first found out, all the stuff you find out on the internet is you don't have a long time to live.
The internet is really good that way. Right?
Yeah, it's great.
Geez.
It's so great. And fortunate for us, we found an organization called the Health Tree Foundation. They do amazing work. It was founded by a lady named Jenny, who has multiple myeloma, and you couldn't find the right information. It was hard to find if doctors specialize in it, who can help you, what treatment options are available. And so this group, Health Tree Foundation, has really put together tons of information. You can go in, search for stuff, understand more about the disease, what your treatment options are, what clinical trials are. You could sign up for a coach, so that's something that Macy and I also do that we can talk more about. But we are coaches for newly diagnosed patients. And so what Macy and I do as kind of a team is really allowed to address the whole thing with cancer, because cancer is more than just I have something in my body that doesn't make me feel well. but it's also your loved ones that are around you. It's your caregivers. So Macy's considered my caregiver, right? I joke she's the one that keeps me alive, and you know, she said yes to marriage, and if she leaves now, she looks like a jerk. So I'm trying to lock it in.
You are stuck.
I'm trying to lock it in. I know I'm lucky, so I'm locking it in. But yeah, so it allows us to do that. But so I guess back to the multiple myeloma in general, it's scary.
Sure.
And you don't know, especially when you get that news, like, hey, you got cancer. And then
Which is kind of a shocker, because you just went in, I mean, it was just, you just went in for a checkup?
Yeah, I went in for my annual exam, and that's something that's actually probably pretty important that we'd love to share is, you know, I had some lower back pain for a while, but I just attributed it to sitting at a desk all the time, right? And so, you know, didn't think much of it, but we had COVID, so you weren't going to the doctors. And we went, Macy finally was like, hey, it's time, right? Your doctor's seeing patients, go get your annual exam. I went in there, blood work showed I had a high protein level, which was a red flag for that. So they did more blood work and testing and said, yeah, odds are you have multiple myeloma. And then went and saw a specialist, and obviously all that was confirmed. But what was interesting is after I was diagnosed and I started learning about some of the symptoms, my head, boom, right? It's, oh, I have that. Because they're, you know, us as people, right? It's, you know, my kids might complain about feeling sore. I'm like, dude, I wake up every day feeling sore, right? We're getting older. And so
you blamed it on age. Is that kind of what you did?
You blame it on age, you blame it on the work you're doing, but
I think let's talk a little bit about what your symptoms were, because I think that's something that we want to share. It's a pretty rare cancer. There's about 130,000 people in the United States that have it, which is a pretty low number if you consider
That's
the
a very
population.
low number. I mean, that's the number of people who watch this show.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, which is great for the show, but still a low number.
It's a low number. Yeah. And it is a type of cancer that goes highly undetected for a long time, because it's really hard to go, oh wait, what is this? So some of the symptoms that he was having is he was having shortness of breath. We had gone on a hike in July before he got diagnosed, and he was dragging, and I was like, maybe it's, he had COVID a couple months before that. I'm like, maybe it's from that, just, you know, didn't really know. And then he'd been complaining about his back hurting, and then he'd like go down the stairs and he'd feel he's like, it feels like my kidneys are like jarring.
Yeah, they're like some punch him in the kidney. Like,
yeah, because what happens is the cancer starts to replicate in your bone marrow, and it starts to take away the healthy blood cells. So it overtakes the red blood cells, which is what carries oxygen, and then it also it inhibits the way that your bones reproduce calcium. So it takes away too much, takes away calcium faster than your bones can recreate it. So he has had, and I don't know now what the status is, but lesions in his back because he was losing so much calcium. That's where the cancer starts, is in your hip and hip bones and back bones there. So those were some of the major symptoms that he was having. And then, of course, the high protein level that showed up in his blood is what was kind of keyed us off.
Yeah, there's what's fortunate for me, but there's couples that we coach, there's others that we know that have multiple myeloma. You know, they found out they had multiple myeloma because they were going to die. Right, it was their kidneys were going into failure.
Oh, geez.
And so, instant dialysis, hospitalization. So a lot of people typically find out from something like that, kidney failure, or just kind of crazy breaks because your bones become so brittle that all of a sudden, you know, there's a gentleman who owns a gym, super healthy, eats healthy, shredded, and he happened to step back and kind of fell, and, you know, fractured several vertebrae in his back, right?
Because his bones were so brittle.
Yeah.
Real quick question, just my own curiosity. What is the protein marker?
It's
Do you
called
know?
it's an M spike or an abnormal protein band. So you have
Okay.
different makeups of all the different proteins in your body, and
Mhm.
they're all supposed. This one is supposed to be 0, because it measures like how much that one protein is mass producing,
Mhm.
and so it's always supposed to be 0. But it's like a total protein. If your total protein is out of the norm, then it's something that needs to be
Okay,
looked
so
at.
you're looking at total protein, and they saw that that was a red flag,
Yeah.
and so I'm assuming it was excessively high.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
they dig
Yes.
into different proteins
Yes.
to understand.
Yeah, and
okay.
then they take a more scientific
Right.
look at the labs.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's a bone marrow biopsy that,
Ooh.
yeah, it feels great.
Yikes.
3 of them.
Oh man.
One I got to sleep through. The other 2, it's just like,
They just numb it up
just
and
numb
go
up
in.
and say go for it, and you sit there and curse a little bit.
Do they? So why? And I don't know if this even matters. I'm just curious. Why would they put you to sleep for one and not the other 2?
It's just a preference of how they do it. It takes
And where
longer,
they do it.
so
Okay.
they don't like to do this putting you to sleep. But you can get whatever you want.
Okay.
I mean,
I asked you, when my dad had his heart surgery, he was awake through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was a cath, up through the groin. But, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just amazing to think about being awake during anything like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't feel good. You
It's
let
not
out
fun.
some words that
Yeah. Yeah.
that are
I would imagine.
yeah, like
Mhm.
yeah. So, but yeah, so bone marrow biopsy really is what ultimately tells you,
Okay,
right? I
okay.
mean, so they do CAT scans, PET scans, X-rays, because a lot of
Mhm.
it's the bones. So seeing do you have lesions or
Mhm.
fractures or anything they got to be aware of. But yeah, that's how they do it. And like Macy said, right, my kidneys would hurt if I ran. Bloody noses is very common. And actually, I was starting to get bloody nose, and I never got bloody noses before. And so I'm like, gosh, every time I blow my nose, I'm getting a bloody nose now. And so it's just little things. And the reality is, right, you got to do those annual exams and stuff like that to catch these kinds of diseases. We caught mine early. Mine was super aggressive. It was in 65% of my bone marrow.
Wow.
And that M spike that Macy was talking about, that abnormal protein, mine was extremely high. So a lot of people, it's kind of like a 2 to 5 or something like that is what they typically see a lot of patients in. Mine was like at 7 point something, right? And even when I went in for my stem cell transplant, it was higher going in than some people even have ever, right, detected. So it was pretty aggressive. They were aggressive with the approach of trying to attack it. I'm now in a, what is it called?
very good partial response. It's not
Very
like
good partial response, okay?
Yeah, to most people we just say he's in remission, but it's not that type of cancer. It's just it's how long will the cancer respond to the medication that he's taking. And so, like Tad talked about a relapse. Some people have gone years without ever having a relapse, but sometimes what happens is the cancer grows resistant to the medication because he's on a maintenance medication now and part of a clinical trial. That's the other thing. In multiple myeloma, there's so much that they don't know, and so there's tons and tons of clinical trials. There's a lot more they know now than they did even 3 years ago. And so there's a ton of clinical trials going on with like tweaking all the medications that they have, bringing in new medications, bringing in new types of therapies. But I don't remember what I was saying about.
Well, one of the medications I'm on.
Oh yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
Did you remember?
No.
Yeah, one of the
It's fine, doesn't
medications
matter.
I'm on for my clinical trial was one they use early on to try to get rid of it. And so now they're going, oh, what if we use it as a preventative drug along with the chemo pill that I take to see if it stays in remission longer.
Yeah, which is why I think that's what I was going to say is that he has a very good partial response. We're trying to get him to a very good response or complete response, I guess is what it's called.
Okay.
We're still kind of working our way there, but I think that's why I've never experienced a different type of cancer, so I don't really know. But I think the role of the caregiver and paying attention is really important in this type of cancer, especially because there's so much that they're constantly monitoring, that it's good to have two sets of eyes to be well, and if you count your whole practitioner team,
your team.
It's good to have other sets of eyes kind of paying attention, and he's had some pretty nasty side effects, and so we're kind of monitoring all of that, and so it's a lifelong thing that we'll be dealing with forever, and it can be all consuming if you let it. I think he and I have done a pretty good job of, well, we can talk about our attitude and all that, how we've approached it, but I think we've done a pretty good job of, not making it who we are. It's just something that we have that we're dealing with, and we feel like we're doing a pretty good job of keeping all that in perspective.
So I want to hit on something just real quick, and I say this a lot, but I think it's important to say over and over and over again, because there are always new people who are out there who are suffering with situations, whatever the situation is, right? It can be all kinds of situations, but making sure that you build your team, making sure that you have people, different specialties, whatever it looks like, people who you trust to help you in building and maintaining and just for whatever it is. I think that having that team of people is really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. And you're a big part of our team because you're helping us with the nutrition piece. Once we kind of got our feet on the ground, we realized that there's a lot out there that there's a lot that we can do to control the cancer in his body, and the main thing is eating an anti-inflammatory diet, and then I know the two of you are still working on getting his gut, to a place, but all of that helps the medications be more responsive and for him to be, as healthy as possible to continue to fight.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's been a really fun experience just getting to know both of you. Obviously, I wouldn't have you on this show if I didn't know your story, but it's just such a great story no matter what. And so I think with that, let's get into your how you took it, your approach, and how it is that you are full of so much gratitude no matter what.
Sure. Thank you. That's certainly a good part of the story we'd love to share. As I mentioned, when you first find out, you're kind of in shock. And so Macy and I found out, we kind of had a long weekend to process together on what does this look like, right? What does this mean? What are we going to do? And at that time, it's hard because it's probably the worst part. Because you're told it looks like you most likely have cancer, you now need to go see a specialist and do all these tests to verify. And it's just, you don't know anything yet, right?
And then you look at the internet.
Then Macy looks at the internet.
Yeah.
I didn't, I looked for about 3 seconds and realized I'm just going to wait for the information. But you kind of go through this shock. Macy and I, fortunately, we have a really good at communicating with one another. So we talked, and the first thing that we really decided was to allow each other to just feel, right? Because we're both going to be at different spots, right? We both have a different perspective on what this means by me getting cancer. And so we talked about just leaving space for the feel. So it's not, oh, Macy, it'll be fine, I'll be fine. To kind of, coat something and make it feel better. It's okay. Let's just feel how we feel right now. And if we need to cry, let's cry. If we want to laugh and tell a joke about cancer, because that's how I deal with stuff is through humor. Let's do that. And so we really did. I mean, that was probably the key thing, is allowing ourselves to feel, not trying to bright side stuff, but at the same time, not doom and gloom, right?
I can't help but to throw this in. When my mom was diagnosed with glioblastoma, I was doing all kinds of research and came across a book where there was a researcher who talked with all of these people who healed or put into remission their cancer, right? In, you know, in ways I believe other than your typical conventional ways.
Right.
And one of them was through laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it was such a great story, and one of those things I think that it's important to be really cognizant of is the mindset that you have, which is again why I love your story. But laughing, and you know, I'm laughing. I told my husband, I was like, we don't laugh enough. I want to laugh, and so now every now and then we're just like going, we're just laughing for no reason. And I think it's really healthy, and the more you laugh, the more you just laugh, because it's really funny. So anyway, I like that you say, you know, so much of what you do is through humor, because it's so important.
Yeah. And there was some, you know, we always talk about this like weekend, because it was like we found out on basically a Friday that like, yeah, we're referring you to an oncologist. Yes, it's likely you have multiple myeloma. And then we couldn't even talk to anybody else about it until the following Monday. And so we had this whole weekend where we just were sitting in it. And Tad's personality is very much, he will kind of get to the humor and the funny and make it, it's an amazing coping mechanism, and it wasn't what I needed at the time. I needed to just feel sad and scared, and my anxious brain was going crazy, you know, again, looking at the internet, 2 to 3 years to live, and you know, all of that, and it was really scary, and I was really sad, and you know, felt all the feelings of all of that, and he'd be like, oh, but you know, he'd start to kind of do this little bright sidey thing, and I'm like, I can't do that right now, and he's like, okay, right, okay, got it. And then it's been the same for him, where he's like, you know, he's had some really rough side effects the last couple of months, and he's like, I'm just sick of being sick, and I'll be like, oh, but we're gonna get you feeling better, and then like I just have to remember that he needs to just feel that. And so just like Tad said, giving each other that time. But we had that weekend where we both were just feeling everything, but also laughing sometimes and crying sometimes, and that was the weekend where we had talked about getting married. We had already wanted to get married. We had already talked about it, but we were like, oh, let's wait till the kids are out of the house and whatever, and then we were like, that was a moment of all we have is what we know right now. And we want to have the party, we want to have the friends, you know, it's going to be a smaller thing just because his immune system's compromised, so we're not having too many people. But anyway, yeah, we just that was kind of our like put a stake in the ground, like we're going to enjoy life now. And you know, we can't just like, you know, obviously we have a long life to live still, hopefully, and you know, but we're trying to practice. Not trying to, it comes pretty easy when you have something like this happen. Presence becomes a lot more important, and just your whole perspective of what it means to be present, and not letting your brain think too far ahead. Like my anxious brain, I'd start thinking about life without him, and going like feeling like I needed to prepare myself, and then I had this like epiphany of going, okay, every minute I think about not living with him, I'm missing the moment of him actually being right here. So.
And I'm like, hey, I'm not dead yet. Like, totally counting me out. Like, I'm here.
It's true.
You know, that weekend was kind of a lot of things. One, it allowed us to decide how we wanted to start approaching things with others as well, right? We didn't want to share anything with anybody until we had answers. Because what we realized is if we are to call people and say, oh, hey, I got cancer, they're going to have 100 questions, just like we do for the doctors, that we don't have answers for.
Right,
And so then all we're doing is putting them in the same spot that we are of this fear and unknown and all that, which really is the toughest part of it. But that weekend we also, I went out with a buddy, we went and had a beer, and it's one of those going, things happen for a reason. You know, I think I'm going to tell him that I have cancer. And so I shared with him that I have this cancer, and here's what I know about it. You know, we're looking to get some more information soon. But I came home from that just okay with what was going on. I
Mhm.
mean, it was really a switch in my head flipped to say, you know what? I'm not in control of this at all. I can't control whatever this cancer is and whatever it's going to do, whenever it's going to punch my time card, you know. But I was okay with that. Whether it's I die in 2 days or 20 years or whatever it is, I'm okay with that. I said, you know, everybody that I know knows how I feel about them, knows how much I love them. I had no debts to pay to the devil, right? I kind of feel that I've had a good life, and so that allowed me to find some comfort going, all right, I'm okay with this, and whatever this is and gonna look like, you know, we're gonna get through it. As you mentioned earlier, right, getting yourself a team. I have the best teammate right here, Macy. She just, how our personalities are and everything, we just make a great team for it, and she absolutely takes care of me, and she's my advocate. And you know, even when we were in the hospital for a stem cell transplant, happy to explain what that is in a second too, but as we're sitting there, there's one morning, I'm just feeling terrible. And the doctors come in and they start, oh, I mean, we do this medicine, blah, 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 and really they sound like Snoopy's teacher, the wah, 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 wah. And I just had to say, time out. Come back when Macy's here. Like, we're a team. You can't just go dropping this all on me while I'm sitting here in the hospital, not feeling very well. So
trying to take it in, and they're speaking a different language.
It is. So, you know, you get that team. Yeah, you know, again, I have someone I'm extremely grateful for. I couldn't imagine doing any of this without her. But as well, right, other friends and family that really, it's interesting because you see how different people respond. And some people kind of push away, right? They don't like hearing bad news, and they don't want to, you know, they don't want to think about that you have cancer, and they're a little more, what I find is they kind of disconnect it, right? They want to chat with you once everything's all better. And then, you know, you had some friends that are the friends that, you know, roll up the sleeves the second they find out, and like, hey, we're in this, how do we do this together, and jump in. So that's huge.
Yeah, we took the same approach with each other as we did with, you know, our friends and our kids, and just letting them have the space that they needed to process all of this and ask the questions and feel however they want to feel, and not bright side it for them. You know, lead by example with, you know, we call it realistic optimism. I mean, we know we have a long journey ahead of us. We know that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and but we are optimistic that we can handle it all, and we've been through some really hard stuff, and we'll continue to push through the hard things and laugh along the way. You know, I mean, it sounds like super cheesy, but it's really true that, you know, the laughter helps, the not letting I'm just speaking, Tad has none of this anxiety, or maybe a smidgen of it. My brain is super anxious, and so I'm always thinking about worst case scenarios and thinking ahead and trying to protect myself, and I've really, really learned that doesn't help. And so, you know, leading by example for the people around us about how we are approaching this, I think has been helpful for them, and I think for our kids as well. You know, for our kids to see, like, oh, okay, he's gonna be fine, you know, and they are all handling it the way they want to handle it, and they've gone on with their lives, which is what we want, you know.
So remind me, and I don't know if you said this already, you were diagnosed, was it been a year and a half ago?
Yeah, it was
August of 2021.
Yeah.
So just a year.
Yeah, a little over a year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a whirlwind year.
It's,
man.
Yeah, so he was diagnosed in August, and he went through 3.5 rounds of what they call induction therapy. They try to hit it really super hard with a combination of medications. And unfortunately, he got neuropathy, which is a known side effect from one of the medications. So that's been, you know, not super fun to deal with. Easy for me to say, but. And then in December, he had a stem cell transplant, which a lot of people hear about it, like with people who have leukemia, because it's effective for helping blood cancers. This the type of stem cell transplant that Tad has, he used his own stem cells. So
Okay.
we didn't
That's what I
have to
was gonna
worry
ask you,
about
yeah.
the graft versus host disease and the, you know, things that come along when you get somebody else's stem cells. So that part was a little
Just knocked
bit,
it over.
yeah, there was a little less risk there, but it's basically 2 days where you get one of the first 2 days. The first 2 days you get high dose chemotherapy. So
you're killing everything.
You're killing everything.
Everything. Red
Everything.
blood cells,
Red
white blood
white
cells, and all your bone marrow.
platelets, everything.
So your bones go hollow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
insane.
pretty incredible, how they figured out that this works, like, I don't know, but.
And you don't die while
the-
they're
Well,
doing it?
yeah. So
Yeah.
I can't help but to ask the question: how did? I mean, when you were going through this type of chemo, I assume that there was a lot of, you felt bad. I mean, so
Yeah.
I know the stem cell
Yeah.
transplant itself was tough, but just that beginning was really tough also.
Yeah, it was.
In the beginning, when he started his treatments, his rounds of chemo, yeah.
Yeah, so during the induction stuff, you get side effects, right? You just don't feel good. I'm tired, stuff like that.
Vomiting,
Nausea,
diarrhea, all the things.
All the fun things.
Yeah, all the fun things. So but it still wasn't terrible. The hard part is I had extreme bone pain, and so the pain is different. You know, if it's I need to go to the chiropractor, get adjusted, or a massage, no. It felt like something was, like a vice was squeezing your bone. It just felt like this pressure in your bone. Different feelings. So I had extreme back pain, as well. That once the neuropathy kicked in, it was in my hands, my feet, and my feet was some of the worst pain I've ever lived with. You know, it was terrible. So you kind of go through that, and then when you do the actual stem cell transplant, you're in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 17 days. And so when they give you that high dose chemo, I had a lot of bad side effects with nausea and vomiting, and so you don't feel good. I mean, and it's a different, you know, I've shared that if 100 people told me what it was like to go through a stem cell transplant, it wouldn't have prepared me for a stem cell transplant. Right? It's just so, well, one, everybody's so different. But with my side effects and everything, I just felt terrible, and I felt like nonstop, like I wanted to throw up, and it then zaps your energy. So you have low energy because you don't have any of the blood going through. So you know, going to throw up or getting up to go to the bathroom is really tough. And so it was by far the most challenging thing that I've had to go through physically and mentally and emotionally. However, when I was in the hospital, I just kept thinking I was the luckiest guy alive. You know,
love that.
Even though I had cancer, it's kind of like, all right, I got cancer, but oh my gosh, I'm so fortunate to have Macy help me out. The doctors I have were awesome. You know, I have a buddy named Jeff, who second he heard I was going to the hospital he just called Macy up and said, I'm coming in, I'm going to stay in the hospital with him these 2 days, you're going to figure something else out to do, right? And then my brother did the same thing on the backside of it to give Macy a little bit of break from sitting there with me, but knowing that I had people to do
How hard was that, though, to take that time away? I mean,
To not be at
to
the
not
hospital.
be there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, hard, and I've learned that I have to take the time for myself also.
Yeah. Sorry to
And
interrupt
so-
you.
no,
but
no,
I feel that going. Do I
Yeah.
really want to be away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the hard thing as a caregiver, and anybody who's dealing with somebody with any kind of a chronic illness knows that, you know, you have that whole guilt factor, and he and I have had a lot of conversations about that I'm not going to be any good to him. Again, this all sounds super cliche, but until you live it, like, I knew that I needed a break, and I knew, like, I came home and, you know, basically just, like, vegged out for a whole day, because I knew I needed that. And it's how I'm going to be the best caregiver for him, is to not, like, I'm trying to take that guilt and just put it aside, because it's not going to serve me, and I really do need it to be the best I can be, not only for him, but for my kids and for my job and for myself. So taking that time has been super important. So I was
Yeah.
happy to have I
Yeah.
mean, obviously the control person in me was like, what did the doctor say?
Yeah.
What did they say during their rounds? I need to know this, this, and this. And both Jeff and Aaron were great about telling me what was happening and calming that part of me down. But other than that, I was happy to have the break.
So I want to say something real quick. I think I should have said this early on before the show. I think today we have to wrap up 10 minutes, 7 minutes early. So I just want to make sure in looking at our time that we get in everything that you want to say. So let's go. just want to put it out there.
Yeah, so, you know, I think, right, when it comes to the attitude, the mental part of it, it is true, like you said, when you have people that you can rely on. I mean, to me, cancer was also extremely humbling, right? Because now I went from being the person that always just helps people, right? I'll help, I'll jump in, you know, I'm always the one helping out. And for me, I had to learn to ask for help.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time I called a friend to see if they would mind making dinner, because Macy wasn't going to be around. It was just going to be me and my son. I couldn't even get it out without crying, right? It was just so hard, and I was so grateful. I know they wanted to help, and so that's why I called them, but man, it was hard to do that, you know. But I did learn that by asking some people for help or allowing them just to help, that's some of their way to process some of this too, right? And so I did find that, okay, actually by me going ahead and asking is a way. And so, you know, that team helps a ton, right? I couldn't have got through any of it without having someone there with me at the hospital. The nights and the mornings were the toughest. But there's all kinds of, you know, it's strange to say, but there's so many amazing things now that have happened because of this cancer, right? It sucks. I get tired of not feeling good. You know, even today I don't feel 100%, right? And so it just, there's days I get tired, and there's days I'm just like, Macy, can I just lay here with my head on your lap and cry, or whatever it is, emotion I need to have that day. You know, we'll do it, right? We gotta make sure that we do that. But the gifts the kind of cool things that have happened is, one, you know, Macy and I were getting married, right? We were engaged, but it allowed everybody, all my friends and family, to actually see Macy through my eyes, right? They got to see her step up and communicate with them and taking care of me. It's not just, we went out to dinner and Macy's great, right? It kind of fast forward the relationship that Macy has with my boys, with my parents, with my brothers, with my friends. You know, I joke that I got friends I've known for 40 years that like Macy more now, right, than they do me. So she, you know, so that's been fantastic. It's also then, as we mentioned, I've met some amazing people now through all this. I've had the opportunity to share my story. I've shared my story at work. I've put it on like LinkedIn to share a little bit about the story, and I've had tons of people reach out like, oh, I have this problem, right? It may not be cancer, but I have this medical condition. How are you handling this work? How are you still able to do this? Right, help people out, coach people. I had someone actually today reach out as well, going, thanks for posting this stuff.
Nice.
I posted that we were gonna be on the show. Thank you for posting this. I'm going through this. I love reading the stories and the inspiration that comes behind it. So it really is made me grateful for that. And then as well, Macy, as I mentioned, we coach through this Health Tree Foundation, which has been, you know, it's one of those things we coach and then it feels like I'm getting more out of it than they are. which is amazing, but we've now have some amazing friends. Shout out to Thomas and Melissa. Thomas, he's going through a stem cell transplant right now.
Oh, wow.
They're in Spain.
They're in Mallorca, Spain.
They're listening to us.
Yes,
But yeah,
so-
he's on day 7 of +7. So
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's having a different experience than I
Okay.
have so far. Like,
Okay.
he seems to be strong and
Good.
not having any of the side effects and some of the complications I've had, so we're extremely proud of them. But it's so cool to be able to do those things and see how people respond, and by me sharing my story, I must seem like a safer place for people to share theirs. And so sometimes it's you need someone to talk to and you don't know who. And so it's been pretty amazing. So even though I took the mentality of I don't call anything a bad day anymore. To me, bad day feels like you forfeit, like, oh, it was a bad day. I'm not going to accept the responsibility. It's just a bad day. And really going through this, I changed my thoughts to where I call things a tough day.
Okay.
And so today's going to be tough. I may not feel good. I may not want to walk around too much. I may not have any energy. I may not want to eat. I may just want to sleep. Whatever it is, those are tough days. We can get through the tough days.
Yep.
And getting through the tough days really makes us appreciate the good days. And when I was going through it, there's sometimes like, oh, I actually had 2 or 3 hours. I felt pretty good today. Right?
Celebrate the little
Yes.
wins,
Yeah,
right?
it was. And so we talk and laugh a little bit more. And then all of a sudden I got to take a nap and maybe don't feel as good. And so it would be take those hours to, a day to now we string a few days in a row that you feel good. And so it's let's celebrate today. Let's appreciate what we have.
Yep.
And for me, it's look for those things that are come out of blessings instead of sitting in and it's easy. I can see myself sometimes going, oh, I just want to hate today and be done. But it really is just trying to keep that positive attitude and go, you know what? It was tough, but these cool things happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really, a lot of what I have learned by being with Tad is taking that approach. I think I have, just naturally tend to have a glass half full type of mentality. Well, especially when there are hard things that are going on. I initially will question my strength and question my ability, and I mean, I've been through enough hard things to know that, this is another hard thing that I get to show up and actually I can get through it and all of that. But that's probably been the biggest gift of all of this, which I think I said before, just, learning the presence, learning that, appreciating the presence and knowing that, if I think too many steps ahead, I'm taking away from now. And it's the dirty little secret that we all know that this is true, and until something like this happens, you don't really get a chance to practice it. And that's fine. Everybody, has their opportunity they can live their life the way they choose to live it, and I would not wish this on anybody. And it's a huge gift that we've been given.
Yeah.
I really do think that. Like, this isn't just like, oh, she's just blowing smoke. Like, this really is, it has brought us closer together. Like he said, it's enhanced our relationships with our friends and family, and I'm grateful for it. It's not easy on some days, and I'm really grateful.
I hope that, people who hear your story, whether it's here or anywhere else, takes it and doesn't wait for the bad diagnosis or the thing to happen before they start to appreciate what they have now. And I say that for myself as well as anybody else. I mean, I think it's such a big deal, and it's a practice, right?
Absolutely.
So I practice nutrition, and I practice gratitude, and I practice being grateful for the moment, and it's always a practice because it's not always easy. But you don't want to wait for that.
No, I mean, ideally, you wouldn't.
Yes.
I didn't. I mean, it took that to really, I mean, it's not completely true. I mean, I am an optimistic person, and I do have a good outlook on things, and this just has made this so much more present in my life.
Yeah. Do you know who Dennis Prager is? Don't know Dennis Prager. Anyway, he's a talk show guy, you know, but he's just super cool, and I've said this on multiple occasions, but I learned from him to be intentionally happy. He's like, it's your job to be happy, because it's gonna be better for you, it's better for the people who are around you, and it sits on me. I'm like, okay, I am intentionally happy.
Yeah.
I'm not always happy, but I am mostly happy. I'm a pretty happy person, you know, and so I that's what I think of, and that's kind of where you are too. It's just that intentional happiness, and you know, live life.
We can always find things to be worried about. There are plenty of things to worry about, and some things need to be handled and looked at and whatever. It's not. This isn't like a toxic positivity thing where it's like, oh, that stuff will go away. Like, no, sometimes you have to face that stuff, and then you choose. Be like, okay, here's what I'm happy about today.
What I'll add to this, right, the personal side of us is, it's not just the cancer, right? I had a son that was going through some mental health stuff that had to go to a wilderness program. This is all while I'm doing the diagnosis, right? You know, and so we have our kids that have challenges too in their lives. So life doesn't just stop, go, all other tough things are going to go on hold because you're just dealing with this. And so we really had to deal with different things as we were going through this, and life didn't go on hold for us, and it still is going. Wow, things happen for a reason. Cool things are here around the corner. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I think that we need to wrap it up. I hope I'm not wrong about this. I'm pretty sure that she's here, and we have to wrap it up a little bit early. I always have to be reminded. I didn't get a reminder today. But anyway, I want to make sure that if people have questions for you, because I know that you do the coaching and you want people to reach out to you with these things, right? So how do people find you?
Well, so a couple things. One, highly recommend healthtree.org. That's they focus on multiple myeloma, but they're also bringing in other types of blood cancers because a lot of them are so related. So that's where we do our coaching through. That's where you can get a ton of information. But if anybody wants to reach out to us, you know, we have macyandtad@gmail.com is set up. If you guys want to send us an email, you can call me on my cell phone, 303-775-9669. And I mean, if people are struggling, I mean, we're not therapists. We're just people that are going through it. And we're happy to share, you know, whatever we can that can help make your journey a little bit easier.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Were you going to say something else?
I just was going to thank you. This has been awesome. I loved it. Appreciate it. That we got a chance to sit down and chat with you some more. And right, another thing to be grateful for is this opportunity to meet and chat with you and share our story with all these awesome people.
This is actually the first time Tad and I have met in person. Everything is always virtual, so this is super cool for me, and I think for all of us. So
definitely.
Thank you. I think it's probably smart to do it again, because I think that you know, the more people who we have listening and paying attention, and new people who come in, you know, this is stuff that needs to be heard. So let's think about doing it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, then we can talk about the book that he's going to write.
I told you I was going to ask you. Okay, we're putting it out there because they're going to write a book. They don't have it yet.
Well, I don't know if it might just be him. We'll see.
Well, anyway, the book's coming. It is now in the world.
Just in the world. Not anywhere else.
Now I got people holding me accountable. Guess I better get on it after the wedding.
After the wedding, after Belize, time to
or
write
maybe
a book.
do it while I'm in Belize. That's where I should start.
That's
a good idea.
She'll read, I write.
I like it. Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Nikki Burnett, Taste Life Nutrition Radio, streaming live on KUHSdenver.com. You can find me anywhere, Taste Life Nutrition, social media, the website, all the things. You can go, you can fill out an analysis or an assessment that comes straight to me, and I'll reach out to you personally, and we'll chat about the things that are on it and what we might be able to do to help you Also moving forward slowly but surely with Soulful Conception, which is a program for preconception planning, and I'm super excited about it. So stay tuned for more of that. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.